Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the most awesome podcast on planet Earth. This is called 80s Mayhem with my excellent host, Chudster. I'm Vlad. How you doing, Chudster?
I am fine. I am awesome, and we have a real treat for you today, as a matter of fact.
Because we're leaving the 80s, but we're still staying in the horror genre.
Mm-hmm.
And a movie that you just saw. Want to talk about that?
Obsession.
Obsession.
Obsession. This is like one of the best horror films I think I've ever seen, probably in a long time.
It was a real surprise of a movie.
I was aching to see it when I had read the recent issue of Fangoria, number 31, volume 2, and they actually talk about, Nikki, Bear, Sarah, and Ian, all the major characters. Inde Navarrette, who gives
Wow, she was fantastic, wasn't she?
She was an amazing... the whole cast. The whole cast, I think. It was just that's the thing. My impression was the acting. The acting was amazing, and I'll probably say something about that. That's my take on it. And just the delivery and the writing. It was a simple story. But as you're going to reveal to us, as probably I should even know, the story goes way, way back and have been recycled in so many different ways.
Right, and it wasn't recycled as a movie. I don't think that there's ever been a movie with this subject. They did a little bit of this in the movie The Craft, where you want someone to fall in love with you, use a love potion or something like that. But this is the first movie of its kind. And I thought, Joe, that, on paper, this just seems like another one of those Blumhouse-type, garden variety, forgettable movies about a guy that's in love with a girl, uses some kind of love potion, in this case, One Wish Willow, to make her obsessed with him. And it could have just been some throwaway movie, but as we now know, it's something so much more than that.
Oh, I agree. I think that when it comes to the characters, it's their flaws. The flaws basically lead the story in a lot of ways.
Exactly. And that's what's great, because when you have a flawed character in a movie or anything, Joe, in a story, that's not bad writing. That's good writing. Because all your protagonists aren't good people or heroes. And we're going to talk about how Bear is just like, he's a character I don't even like. But that's the writing, and that's the genius of the writing, for example.
And the challenge of the actor to take on a character that, they may not like, but I have to really give that,
Yes.
It's something that a lot of actors do struggle with, when they're starting out anyway. But when they know the business, and I'm sure that they did, but I remember, because looking at the character of Bear and the actor who played him, it reminded me of when I used to do voiceover, and basically there were certain dialogues that they would read about characters that were kind of like wimpy, or the characters that they felt they would never be, and they had a problem. They struggled with that, and I can imagine what it must be for acting. This is just for radio, or just basically voiceover.
Yeah.
So, I think that definitely is something that really came out. Insecurities, things that people struggle with, things that people actually, and also there's a lot of interesting questions you ask about in terms of the supernatural element that I really felt was really very, very interesting.
Let's break down the Nickies. So there's Nikki, and there's Freaky Nikki. Freaky Nikki is a nickname that Nikki gets that she doesn't like.
Right.
But the obsessed Nikki, let's just call her Freaky Nikki. And my question is that there are times when the Freaky Nikki, the obsessed Nikki, the real Nikki comes out. They're making out or something. Oh, shit. The real Nikki comes out. So my question is, does the real Nikki know what's going on the whole time? Is the real Nikki just trapped in the body and just seeing what's going on? Because there's that scene where Freaky Nikki is sleeping and the real Nikki is talking to Bear. She's like, kill me. So is the real Nikki just popping in and seeing, oh my God, what's going on? Or is the real Nikki always there being a prisoner in this body? What do you think?
I think as the story progresses towards the middle, I think she's almost like in a deep sleep until things start to progress towards the middle of the story. And then, yes, she does.
Okay, because I do think that the real Nikki is kind of there, like, looking around. Okay.
Comatose. Or in a coma.
Right.
Basically.
And waking up every once in a while. My second question is there always a negative effect in using the one wish willow. Okay, so Ian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one scene where I think it's kind of silly, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Where Ian's like, "I wish for $1 billion."
Yeah. Yeah. I want that.
And it's
thing.
like, it doesn't even look like money. I couldn't tell what was even coming down. I assumed it was money raining in his apartment. It reminded me of the frogs coming out from the sky in the movie Magnolia.
Magnolia, yeah. That's what it kind of reminded me of. Yeah.
So Ian is shot by Nikki after becoming a billionaire.
Right.
But was that just him being at the wrong place at the wrong time?
Mm-hmm.
Now, theoretically, would he be getting that $1 billion free and clear?
Mm-hmm.
And do bad things happen even if your wish is good, like the cure for cancer or world peace, eliminate world hunger? So is there always a negative effect on any wish that you make from the one wish willow? What do you think?
Me personally, I think that yes, because it's unnatural. And it was something that was brought into being by unnatural means, as opposed to the natural means. Now, we're going to get a little bit into certain things, like in reference, like for instance, Tales from the Crypt. There are some stories that basically reflect things that people have that they should not have. And that's where the negative effect comes in, because they're not supposed to have it. And I think that in terms of like this story is like the classic example of something like that. It's almost as if like that's the reason why there's a morality tale. It's a morality tale because like in a lot of stories from Tales from the Crypt, you would have somebody who tries to kill their spouse, cover it up, and collect the insurance money. And in trying to do so, you know, that person comes back from the grave and kills them.
Right.
And I think that with this, that's the main theme of this story, is that just because you wish for something doesn't mean that you should necessarily have it. I mean, it crosses sci-fi, horror, all different genres. I mean, even Spock said in an episode, after a time to somebody, that you will find that having is not as pleasing a thing as wanting. And that really does apply to this, I think.
And the whole theme of the movie, just to get off a tangent for a moment, they never say it in the movie, but it's careful what you wish for, you might get it. But when we talk about that, Joe, we never talk about why you shouldn't wish for something because you'll get it. Because sometimes we think we want something, but we don't have the whole picture. We don't have the whole story. I want her to be in love with me, blah, 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 blah. Not thinking about what could happen as a result of that. Do you really want that? What's the extent of that love? But anyway, getting back to the bad things happening, there is a phone number on the One Wish Willow.
Right.
And you call for questions. It reminded me of the movie The Substance. Did you see that one with Demi Moore?
Yes, with Debbie Moore. Very little dialogue.
Where she calls the number, and it's always like, how can I reverse this? And it's like, sorry, there's nothing we can do to help you.
Yeah.
But there should have been a warning. Like, even cigarettes have, warnings on them. Nobody pays attention to them. But this should have been warning. Use of this product may include misfortune, tragedy, negativity, and death in some cases.
Right.
I don't think there's any warning signs on that One Wish Willow.
Well, no. As a matter of fact, what it does, in effect, to stem off of what you're saying, is that it creates an epicenter. And it starts to grow of dysfunctionality that I think links all the characters in this type of scenario where it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good because it's something that's unnatural. And when he finds out that on the other line, he says, well, you're going to have to die. Either one. I knew right from the get-go. It's funny because with this, based on what you're saying, I knew right from the get-go that that's what was going to wind up having to happen. I just wanted them to deliver the performance. I want them to show me the dilemma. I want them to show me. And again, that's where the acting really brought out just the pain and the anguish of having to basically take that route because this is what you decided to do. This is the consequences of your actions. And that's the reason why I think it's linked to this. Like I said, the epicenter basically is linked to what they really should have and what they don't have. So getting back to what you're saying, it basically is a big kind of quagmire. That's just the result of your actions. They're the consequences of those actions. And I really got that from this, and it was really delivered. I mean, the great thing about a story like that is that as simple as it is, when you embellish it with all these different things that link to the supernatural, that link to your heart's desire, that link to basically everybody that you know, your close friendships. When something is done in an unnatural way, it basically creates an imbalance, and the structure just falls. And
And you sell your soul,
yeah, and it's fatal.
in effect.
Like when you were asking about when Ian, when he gets shot, was just him being the wrong. It was the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I think had he not been there, some other tragedy would have befallen him. As
it would,
well.
yeah, eventually.
Something bad would happen to him anyway.
He would have gotten into a car crash or something else. You know, it basically, like, again, Tales from the Crypt. It's like it's a supernatural element. You know, and
Yeah.
back then what they did was, because with Tales from the Crypt, it was originally Bible stories based on the Old Testament, and basically they would write that over as the supernatural element would be God's judgment. Okay, that's where that comes from. I mean, in a nutshell. But I think with this, I definitely think that the product itself and the way that they displayed it, the way it was marketed, it was brilliant. You know, the number in the back, when he calls the number, and then when he goes back to the store that he bought it from in the first place, the guy he speaks to sounds like the guy on the phone. Could have been the same actor. No, it was the director.
I didn't notice that, maybe. And that was one of my questions.
It was the director. Incidentally, just so you know, that was the director. Incidentally, that was the guy on the line.
One of my questions, like, what the hell is going on at that crystal store? Because it's kind of like, it's either they definitely know what's up or they have an idea. Because it's like, oh, yeah, people complain all the time. Well, what do they complain about? Well, they're not happy with whatever happened. Oh, God, another one, another unsatisfied customer.
Yeah. And it's funny how he basically explains it. You know what it also reminds me of? One of the female actress who played the lead, one of the supporting characters in Get Out, Jordan Peele. And she was one of the women who was sucked up into that whole underground market. And, it's not until you see the slit on her head, she starts to do exactly what Nikki does in this movie. Oh, no, 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 no. Like that whole thing really freaked me out. And it was the same kind of effect because of this type of unnatural control. That's from a different standpoint. It's something that's basically administered by somebody to control people. This is a different kind of control from somebody who just wants something, and he uses a supernatural product to achieve that. And you get the same thing. But when she basically goes in and out, when you were talking about how does she know or does she not know, I actually turned to during the party, which that frown on her face, when she had that cross look on her face with that frown.
She does a lot of that.
And I was thinking about Black Phone with the bad frown. That's exactly the kind of imagery I was thinking of, But she did it herself naturally, that frown. How she pulled that off to make her mouth like that. I'm like, how? I mean, but, she was talking about Hansel and Gretel, and she made it incestuous, okay?
Yeah.
She literally says in the article in Fangoria that she actually asked people to get out when she was talking about it because it was just, and yet she delivered it. And, I was thinking about all that she had to go through when she's actually close to him, and there's so much about, like, the whole scene when she vomits and everything, and, like, I think that she was basically giving the character its all because she was fighting herself, and in a lot of ways maybe even her real self was trying to come out.
I think that's why she was beating herself up, maybe.
Yeah, she was trying to come out, and you get that. I mean, acting is the most fun, and I'm quoting somebody by saying this, but I mean, the fact of the matter is,
who are you quoting?
Tom Savini.
Okay.
He was on a Q&A, and he said it because it deals with emotions, and but that's why it's also torture, and I really got that from watching this movie. I was really, like, amazed by the performance. It was like she lived that. That's why it's like you're scared. It's the best jump scares.
Yeah.
The best jump scares.
I think, speaking about Inde Navarrette, I mean, someone in Variety said she should get an Academy Award for this performance. And it's really damn good. It's really a star-making performance. It's like if you saw Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, you'd go, that's a star.
Yeah, that was great.
This is kind of the same thing with Inde Navarrette, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does with more films in the future. I mean, look, you've got Zendaya, you have Florence Pugh, you've got
from
Sydney Sweeney.
right.
Now you've got Inde Navarrette.
Well, she's going to be in a film that's actually titled here. I actually have it right over here. It was called, here it is. In Vertigo, and it's a thriller that involves teenagers trapped on a roller coaster. That's one of the films that she's probably going to be in.
I like that. That's the kind of movie you sign up for without reading the script. You're like, trapped in a roller coaster? Yeah, let's do it.
There should be more horror films on roller
Does it just
coasters.
keep going like this the whole 2 hours or something?
Look, the scariest moments of your life are in like 30 seconds, and there aren't any safeguards. I mean, you and I should know, Vlad. I mean, remember, Great Adventure when we went to school, the free fall? I was scared out of my mind when we went on that thing. It was just 13 stories, but by the time we got off, I think that my heart was just up out of my mouth. I had to put it back in. So...
Yeah, that's like if you grew up in the 80s in New Jersey and New York, you'd know Great Adventure.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that, it's funny that should be her thing. That could be the new thing, or like, that's going to be a hot movie. With her, forget about it. It's about roller coasters? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because she was on a roller coaster in this movie.
Perfect way to say it.
I swear to God, like, I was just looking at her performance, like, how did they all get through this? Because the jump scares just come out of nowhere, but they're perfect because with the conflict within her and him and what happens at the end, it's just unpredictable. Right down to like, gee, we were just friends and now all of a sudden she wants to date me all of a sudden and now she's really serious. And just even the slow, like when she was in the bedroom and she was in the corner going back and forth and she had the bars in her face, like it scared the crap out of me. Because she was very quiet. It was when she was quiet and very subtle that her character was just as alarming and scary as when she came out full force. Because it was like something that you just don't expect. You didn't know when it was going to come out again. Because it was like somebody with a split personality. So I was like, oh my God. Like, I really have to say. Also, I think Barker himself is working on something called Anything But Ghosts. Basically,
right.
Fake ghost hunters who encounter real spirits. I mean, that's kind of like what he's leaking out.
Okay, so speaking of that movie, Anything But Ghosts, Inde Navarrette was interviewed, and they said, okay, what happens to Nikki at the end of the movie? And she said, this movie, Anything But Ghosts, there's something in the movie about a young woman who's convicted of killing like 3 people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think that's... because these worlds are connected. Anything But Ghosts and Obsession. So that's kind of the hint as to what happens to Nikki.
Oh, yeah.
Heroin.
So who knows? So you're saying that could be connected to this? That could be like a possible sequel maybe to it? Or
Not a sequel, but just in that world.
Okay. Okay.
It exists in the same world.
I mean, it's funny because it's an otherworldly kind of film about some kind of an afterlife. Just like, we mentioned Black Phone earlier. I mean, that's what that is. It's like an afterlife. And it's unpredictable. And, very similar to that film in a sense that, you're with these characters and you're trying to find out all the clues. There's a lot of clues in this movie. There's a lot of symbolism in this movie.
Okay, so one of the scenes where Bear goes to work and Nikki is waiting at the door as he leaves. And she's kind of like, and it pans down and she urinates all over herself and the floor. I think I know why, but why does she urinate on herself? What is the significance of that?
I was actually thinking back to what we were discussing before between her and what took her over. And I'm thinking to myself that maybe because it's just so exhausting that she just has to exert herself.
I felt it's kind of like if you have a cat or a dog and you leave the house and the cat and the dog just kind of waits for you for as long as it takes for you to come back. And I think she was so obsessed that even though she sort of allowed him to go out to work, she didn't want to miss him coming back. So it's like if she was in the bathroom, taking a shower or whatever, sitting on the TV, watching TV, she didn't want to waste 5 seconds for him coming in. once he came in, she wants to be right there. That's kind of my take on that. Why she's doing that? It's like she can't leave because if she goes out, if she uses the bathroom, she might miss him coming back. She might miss 5 precious seconds.
That glued to him.
Yeah, that
Right.
was my take on that.
Almost parasitic in a way,
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe also too, like because the cat plays such a big role. Maybe he liked the cat. Maybe she was marking the territory. You're right.
I feel like Bear's cat is very important in the movie because it's a thread that runs throughout the film. So the second scene of the movie, because of negligence, is he killed his cat. So I'm a cat dad. So right off the bat, I don't like this guy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
For what he did. But it's interesting how they took the death of the cat and they used it throughout the whole film. So Nikki uses the dead cat as sort of a shrine.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the funny thing that happened in the movie theater. So I saw it with my mom. She's a movie critic, right? My mom is sitting to my right.
Mm-hmm.
To my mom's right, 2 empty seats. The seat next to the empty seat is a guy. He's sitting there, right? So we're sort of in the middle. He's sort of towards the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
The scene where Bear is talking to Sarah and he's like sitting on the floor, eating food, talking to Sarah. I'm watching the scene. I'm not thinking anything of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guy that's sitting in the theater at the end of the lot's theater, I could swear he says, "That's the cat," like under his breath. And I go,
Right.
Wait, is Bear eating the cat right now?
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing about that scene, you don't reveal it right away. He's eating, he's talking to the girl, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm waiting. So is this going to be a reveal that it's the cat? And then finally he's like, oh my God, I'm eating the cat. And then he throws up.
Yeah.
Which was great that somebody in the audience tipped me off. I'm like, oh shit, I should have seen that coming. And even the end, the way Bear dies, committing suicide by taking that oxycodone, is the same way his cat dies in the beginning of the film.
Right. Right. Symbolic. And the funny thing is he changes his mind at the last minute, but it's too late.
Yes. No, doesn't he try to shoot himself?
He tried.
So instead,
she tries to shoot him. Both of them in the beginning he does, but then he decides to take that.
Right.
And then also she makes the wish, and that's when he changes his mind, but it's too late, and that's when she becomes her real self.
I missed that part of the movie, and I read it on Wikipedia. What's her wish? Does she use the one wish willow?
Yeah, she broke it, if you remember.
What was her wish?
And this is what I think. I could be wrong, but I really do think she probably wished either one of two things. Either to reunite with him, or maybe she wanted him to be as much in love with her as she was with him. Because
does she try to kill herself before? Wait, she makes the wish, then she tries to kill herself, and then she wakes up as the real Nikki, right?
Right. She wakes up. She tries to do that at the end when she realizes what happened.
I read it on Wikipedia and I totally missed that part of the movie.
And she tries to do that, but that's pretty much what it is. And now at the end, she's basically herself, and she could see exactly what happened.
Seeing the carnage of everything and realizing that, she's, like I said, she's the real victim. I mean, she's the hero and the victim of the movie too. She's the real victim of the movie.
Right. I mean, I'm not really as judgmental of the characters in regards to the Wishing Willow, because if it was just basically a gag, it would have been a gag and this wouldn't have happened. I'll put it
But that's what everybody thinks, it's a gag. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, I'll make a wish, whatever. And I'll wish for $1 billion and...
Yeah, and I tend to blame it. That's the one thing that I tend to blame is that, because it's a supernatural element. And with something like that, it's the unknown. It's an unknown factor. It's that X factor in the equation that in this movie, when you find out, it's a tragic ending.
Yeah.
And it's something that we cling to because based on what I said before, what they do is they take the flaws of the character and they make that root out the story in a way that brings out a horrific tragedy.
And that's what I want to talk about, the character of Bear. That he is not a sympathetic character. He's not a character that we can root for. And I didn't like him in that sense. And again, when I say that, I'm not saying I didn't like the movie. I like that he's written as an unsympathetic character. First scene of the movie, he's got this whole speech about how he's going to profess his love to Nikki.
Right.
Right? And Nikki's smart. She knows that he's in love with her, right? And she even gives him the out. She even says, "Do you like me?" And he's like, well, like, I think if you like a good friend, And this is where you talk about using the forces of nature and all the bad things that happen, Joe, as a result of using these supernatural elements. Like, you don't mess with the supernatural. You don't mess with black magic and things like that. But if he had just stood up for himself, here's the thing, too. If you like somebody, and I'm no expert at this, right? But if you like somebody, you said something like, hey, kind of have a crush on you, kind of like you,
Right.
If you say it like that,
right.
You might get some respect of like, oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. But if you go, I was thinking like, well, I kind of, like you. And like, I don't know. I was just wondering if, maybe, you like me. She'll laugh in your face.
Right.
So I'm not saying he should jump on top of her, like slobber all over her, but at least, man up and just say, hey, I like you. This is the way it is. And if you don't like me, okay, we'll just be friends.
Well, cool.
And just do it like that. But whether she really likes him or not is kind of vague. And I like that because she might like him like that. She might not like him like that. But he needed to stand up for himself. So here's the thing. Instead of taking the initiative and saying, hey, I like you. Do you like me or not? If not, that's too cool. He wants her to say, Bear, I like you. Let's be boyfriend and girlfriend. He's too much of a chicken shit to just stand up for what he wants, to state what he wants. He wants her to do that work, and that's where the One Wish Willow comes in for him.
Right. He developed a codependency.
Exactly.
That's really what happened. He developed a codependency in a sense that he doubted himself.
Right.
And in doing so, in most abusive relationships, I mean, and I know, trust me, I think we all know, we've all been there.
Yeah.
When you're trapped in these relationships, it's based on a codependency, and it keeps you from focusing on the real issues. And because of that, it's very dysfunctional. It's just heart-wrenching, and in a lot of ways, that's when you have to get to a point where basically this isn't working out, and it's for the best. You got to basically go your separate ways.
Right.
If you can deal with it and you can come up with ways and solutions depending on your maturity and how well you know each other, this is a whole nother quagmire. But let's not forget that with this movie, there was something that was supernatural that was manipulating everything.
Oh, of course.
It makes it even worse.
Right.
Like,
so, I mean, he's not at fault for that. He's just like, hey, I want her to love me, whatever.
Right.
But nobody knows. Like I said, there's no warning sign like this could cause death and misery. It's just kind of a joke thing. Okay, like, yeah, wish, this. But had Bear... See, this could have been a win-win situation. This could have been a happy ending situation in the sense of if he just told her how he felt, she would have given him that chance or rejected him, and then he would have found love with the Sarah character who actually did like him, who may have been better for each other. So he would have been with that girl. And because he did kind of like her too, in a way, she liked him. So it would have been a win-win. But of course, this has to be a tragedy because it is a horror movie.
Right.
Based on The Chaser, the Twilight Zone episode.
Right.
And the...
Love to Death, that's from Tales from the Crypt.
And Love to Death, Tales from the Crypt.
Mariel Hemingway.
Yeah, the male character is always like a chump. Like he's a wussy, right? But only the chumps need a love potion. So James Bond doesn't need one for Pussy Galore in Goldfinger.
Right.
Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise they don't need it. A love potion is not a MacGuffin in the Indiana Jones films. There's no Raiders of the Forbidden Peruvian love potion movie. It's only for like these lovable losers that need that. They can't stand up for themselves. Like, hey, I kind of like you. Oh, you don't like me? That's okay. Let's just stay friends. You're cool. Thanks for being honest with me.
Sure. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. I think that when you need something as a crutch, it's almost like a narcotic. You know, this is a little weird with this movie though, because he winds up having to use it at the end, and it turns out to be even worse because he decides to basically use it in a way that, if not obstructing the flow, he just basically turns the valve and opens it all the way to the point where it's basically a gusher, like a major. It's like it's like a major leak that ruptures. You know.
Yeah, and this movie has been compared to the story The Monkey's Paw, which I don't know that it's really directly related to that. I think Stephen King did that better in Pet Sematary, but the idea being is like, let's say something bad happens, right? So you do something to fix that bad thing, then it gets worse. So you fix that thing to make it better, then it gets worse. Then you fix that, and it gets even worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. The more you try to fix it, the worse it gets.
Right. I think that I understand, because the monkey's paw, you just make a wish, and after every one, this is what happens. That's it. I think with this film, it ups the threat, and I think it gets to a point where we start to make it even worse. And I think that brings out the complexity of relationships and how we can make things worse sometimes.
Yeah.
When we overthink or we try to compensate, we're apologetic when we should really be honest instead of really much the exact opposite. We're very superficial about it. We cover it up. It's like we put a Band-Aid on a broken leg, right? And that really comes out with this movie. That really comes out in terms of their insecurities and their fears. It comes out with what they want. And when you desire something, especially when it comes to the young, I have to say, because when you're much older, I think it's a different perspective. I think depending on your experiences, you approach it a little differently. But then again, that's not everybody. But I also do think that there's a certain impetuousness that comes out with the characters, in a sense that, it's basically on impulse. And, they all know each other. We find out the history. We find out that Nikki basically, I guess, had a thing with Ian earlier on, and it was just platonic, or it was just casual.
Right. And Ian is just this like happy-go-lucky guy. He doesn't give a shit,
Right.
So it's like he hooks up with her and they don't, whatever. It's fine. Like, they're still cool.
Right.
And that's what makes him more of an attractive character, maybe to like a Nikki type, where it's like he's like, hey, whatever, let's have some fun, whatever, doesn't matter. He's not like giving her a guilt trip or anything.
Because right from the get-go, I mean, given the history and what he knows, given what Bear knows, essentially, it would be like, no, this is like right from the get-go. No. Like, I mean, don't forget, he's the one that broke the Wishing Willow. So, but still, I don't think he really knew that this was going to happen. I think after he breaks the Wishing Willow, he starts to realize, as things unfold, what's natural and what's not natural. Again, that's the X factor in this. It's like something that's not natural.
And throughout the movie, I'm thinking, when she becomes obsessed with him, Nikki, I'm like, why don't you just go back to the store, buy another one, and just wish that this never happened?
Yeah.
Or wish now she's not obsessed with me, or wish that I never found this place in the first place.
Well, he really just compounded the problem. He did that. He compounded the problem. He added another factor, another Wishing Willow.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that's the reason why it's something that should be banned. It would be something that I'd be like, just get rid of. Me, I'd be on a crusade to get rid of them and not to have them broke.
Well, the people in the crystal store didn't give a shit. They're like, yeah, okay, there you go. It's $8.99 plus tax.
Who knows? Maybe they didn't even know. Maybe they didn't even know.
I felt like they knew. I felt like they knew. At the very least, they knew something was up.
I mean,
people come back complaining about this all the time.
They, in that sense.
Yeah.
In that sense, I think you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But I will say this: one of the best horror movies I probably have ever seen, probably a long time. The jump scares are probably the best jump scares.
Well, very well made. I mean, Inde Navarrette, just star-turning role. She was great. She was so good in that movie.
I think also the filmmaker too. I think it's Curry Barker, right? That's the director of the movie. So I think
Spielberg gave him props recently. Said, "I love this movie."
Yeah, Curry Barker really paced the movie in a way, and he said that he did say it, and we did talk about where he got his ideas from. I think that he really kept it very simple, and because of that, it was easier to focus on a lot of things that didn't take you out of the movie. If anything, it just,
except the $1 billion raining down in the apartment.
well, that actually really brought out the reality of the supernatural.
The reality,
element.
because we all would wish for $1 billion.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that it actually happened really
Yes.
shows you the potency of this thing, and that
Yes.
that was like a slap of the face. In case anybody later on in the movie was like, well, maybe it is really it is, because look, he just said that, and look what happened. Because he was the first one that opened his mouth as soon as it was broke. Yeah. So it's something that, is sporadic, it's unpredictable, and yet it's very, very simple. But depending on what you say, what comes out of your mouth, that could affect reality in a way that could be consequential, it could be catastrophic. It's like me saying, you break in and I just really wish I had an aircraft carrier, and a fucking aircraft carrier just drops on my house in the middle of this podcast. Yeah. I mean, that's basically... But
who knows that works all the time at the One Wish Willow, So the movie cost about $750,000 to make.
Mm-hmm.
As of right now, it's June 8th.
Mm-hmm.
It's made about $225 million. And here's another fun fact.
Wow.
The movie came out May 15th.
Mm-hmm.
About 2 weeks later, June 2nd, the original plan was to release it on digital. Right?
Right.
But they're like, wait a minute, this movie's making so much money. Let's keep it out there for a while.
Mm.
So my final thing I want to talk about was sequel ideas. I came up with some ideas of like, what if there is a sequel, which there's got to be,
Right.
Yeah. So first I thought a direct sequel with Nikki. So either the murders are pinned on Bear, or she's convicted of the murders, and it's her story. Like what happens to Nikki after this because of everything what happened, right? Mm-hmm. Another would be like the origin story of the One Wish Willow. Like who makes them? Is it are they aliens? Are they like, people that live, underneath the ground or something like that? Mm-hmm. Another one would be a new obsession story. It could be an alternate wish. Maybe somebody wants, to be a tennis champion or a billionaire, or you do an alternate story, just like this one, but you switch genders. So maybe there's a girl and a guy, and the girl is in love with her guy friend and wishes that the guy falls in love with her. Because think about it this way. If you did this movie and you made the guy obsessed, completely different movie.
Yeah, it would be.
Because you imagine like what Nikki was doing on this crazy shit. You imagine if a guy was doing all that stuff? That would be a completely different take.
Mod on. Well, I think that would be the best sequel. If it was the guy who was affected and the woman basically broke the wishing willow. That would probably be the best sequel, I think. Because it would be equally as potent. It would contrast the first film, but yet be an effective sequel to really explore what happened in the first film in a way that doesn't go too off the rails.
Right.
So I think that would be probably the best sequel. I agree. In terms of that would probably be because I wasn't really thinking about that, because just like Sinners, I believe the filmmaker said that he wouldn't make a sequel, even though it made so much money. I think that was something like this. I could probably, if that happened, that would be the best sequel. That would be the best sequel. Kind of like, it wasn't really, I don't know if it was a good idea or not, but like kind of like with the first Predator, it was in the jungle. The second Predator, it was in the city, a different kind of jungle.
Well, you're taking the character and moving it somewhere else.
Yeah. So with this, you're basically using a different type of character. You're using someone you're using a man instead of a woman to be affected by the Weeping Willow, as opposed, as vice versa. So that would probably be my best take on a sequel. It's a very dynamic story, but yet it's a very simple vehicle. But it works.
Yeah.
It works. I mean, why do you think one of my favorite Ray Bradbury stories was Something Wicked This Way Comes? Because it's a carnival. And a carnival is the best vehicle for fantasy, dark fantasy, and whatnot.
But again, with that, you make a wish, and then something bad happens because of that wish.
And with something that it's fun, kind of related, because that's kind of like, Something Wicked This Way Comes. It's when people are granted their wishes and they find out why they don't really want it. But it's kind of the same thing, but it isn't. Yeah. But that's another.
Well, I would say it's kind of like you're replacing one problem with another problem.
Exactly. Exactly. But I mean, I think with that story, it's like it's basically the way of the devil. Yeah. And how he can basically sway people, which is like something totally different, but it's still the same thing. But on that note, I mean, what would be your closing thoughts on this movie?
To recap, this could have been just a regular Blumhouse type. Guy falls in love with a girl, uses a one wish willow. She's obsessed with him. It could have just been something that was, like a throwaway movie.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a good movie, but a throwaway movie. But not to compare it to Jaws. But, Jaws was like a movie based on a best-selling book.
Mm-hmm.
Universal Pictures said, hey, let's make this quickie movie, make some cash off of it, not realizing that it would just be like the most, the biggest film of all time, like the
Right.
summer blockbuster
Right.
that it was.
Right.
It was just some simple thing, hey, let's make a movie, and then it became the juggernaut that it was, the Jaws that it was.
Right.
So I think like that too. This is just some throwaway idea that turned into just like this really awesome movie. And really, what a nice surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Well, from
What's your take on this?
like I said before, the best jump scares, and I feel that the filmmaker basically paced it in a way that was so unpredictable, and I think that this film really goes into your subconscious. It goes into your insecurities and your fears, and all these different things that when you go through your life day to day, we take for granted.
Yeah.
And I always look at it, it's well written. I think that it's basically, even though it's like you said, it's a throwaway story, but I think what they did was they took the whole aspect of relationships as a vehicle to convey something that's supernatural that could become disastrous, and there are consequences, and you're constantly thinking in a way that you're still kind of working everything out even after you see the movie, after you walk out of the theater, I think. The soundtrack was really kind of disembodied too, and kind of creepy, because it wasn't really the big thing, but it was off key in certain ways that made me feel atmospherically kind of.
Well, the character of Nikki is very off key as well.
And it triggered a certain kind of anxiety that you usually feel whenever she's around, like a cue.
Yeah.
And I really think that that's probably the reason why that was another thing that was really weird. It was really off. The film was really very weird and very off as a horror film. I think it should be. And it was just effective. Scared the bejesus out of me. I mean, I never, in a movie so much. Oh my God. So, yes, definitely those my closing thoughts are that we are probably going to be seeing more ideas spewing from this movie. And I do believe that it definitely is a winner. When it comes to horror films, I think that this is definitely one of the films that will be remembered. And who knows? We could probably see it at the Oscars in one way or another. I do believe that she...
you're right. This kind of like Sinners. This could be like, best original screenplay, for sure.
Yeah.
I could see that as a nomination at the very least. Yeah.
Definitely. But we hope that you enjoyed. Do you agree, or anybody watching this video, do you agree or do you not agree?
Give us your comments, the questions that we asked.
Yes.
What do you think about those questions?
Chudster and Vladdy Vlad.
Vladdy Vlad.
Let us know. Did you love this movie? Did you hate it? Feel free to say so. And we will have more as we go back to the 80s and even venture outward.
Yes.
Be well, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining the channel. See you soon. Have a good night.